I actually started to integrate and embody my human design. And I was understanding really what this means, like how you really apply human design to your life as a mom, as a parent, as a sister, as a daughter, as a neighbor, as this incredible soul that's meant to create the most dynamic life, and realizing like we truly are our own creators. Like we get to do whatever the heck we want.
Hello and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, your host on this incredible journey of career transformation. Get ready for inspiring stories, valuable insights, and a roadmap to shift your mindset towards a more fulfilling professional life. In each episode, we explore the remarkable journeys of individuals who made a career change, offering motivation, strategies, and the confidence to pursue your dreams. Whether you're feeling stuck, contemplating a change, or just seeking a dose of inspiration, this podcast is your weekly companion. Tune in every Thursday as we uncover the secrets to shifting your day job. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shift Your Day Job podcast. Before I introduce today's guest, I've got something special to share with you. If you're feeling stuck and overwhelmed in the job search, I know how frustrating it can be to endlessly scroll through job boards only to feel like you're getting nowhere. That's why I created a free mini course to help you shift from confusion to clarity and avoid the one big mistake that may be holding you back. In this training, I'll guide you step by step through the exact strategy you need to make your career transition with confidence. No more second guessing your qualifications or feeling stuck in a cycle of random job searching. You'll learn how to focus on your strengths, align your passions with your next opportunity, and create a job search plan that actually works. By the end of this course, you'll have a clear, actionable roadmap to start landing the career you've always dreamed of without the overwhelm. If you're ready to take action and step into your future, DM me on Instagram at Shift Your Day Job with the word mini course, and I will send you the link to get you started on your journey towards a more fulfilling, aligned career. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Visser, a coach specializing in human design, and we're diving into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, personal growth, and empowerment. Rebecca takes us on her incredible journey from being an uncertain university student to discovering her passion for acting, facing deep depression, and eventually finding her true calling in coaching through human design. Together, we explore how understanding your unique design can help you thrive not only in your career, but in all areas of your life, whether as a parent, a partner, or a professional. Rebecca shares how human design has transformed her own life and how it can serve as a tool for authenticity, self-love, and empowerment. I've had the absolute pleasure of working with Rebecca as my own human design coach, and let me tell you, her vibrance and energy are absolutely infectious. If you've ever felt like you were trying to fit into a box that just didn't feel right, this episode is for you. Rebecca and I talk about how human design can unlock the path to a more fulfilling and dynamic life, one that is aligned with your true self. So, grab your favorite drink and get ready for a conversation that will inspire you to embrace your unique path. Please join me in welcoming Rebecca Visser to the podcast. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I am like so excited.
I'm excited to have you. Rebecca and I worked together earlier in the year. She was a coach for me and did my human design, which was awesome. And to learn more about that, about myself. And I just love Rebecca's exuberance. I love your excitement for everything that you do and the love that you share with other people. And so I'm excited to have you on my podcast.
I appreciate that. It was an honor you chose me, especially at the beginning. Girl, look how far you've come. It was a couple weeks before you launched your podcast, and we started working together and just being a part of that journey and seeing you right now. Today is the 25th of October, and to actually see your growth, it's so incredible. Like it doesn't shock me at all. I maybe it might shock you a little bit, moments of it, but I think now you've gotten used to what your norm is. Like you, Brittany, you did this is all you. And it's so fabulous. I'm so proud of you. And you have every reason to be proud of yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Awesome. Let's dive in to a little bit about you and your career path. What have you done in the past to get you where you are today? And what did that look like?
Yeah, I loved that having the time to reflect on that question. It really brought me back where I started. I went to university right out of high school because I was expected to go. But I'm going to tell you right now, I was the most clueless. I even knew I was clueless. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just was following along. And school was never really a strong point for me in my earlier life. I grew up in Beavisville, Ontario, and I always knew even at 7, I would not stay there my whole life. I just always knew I was going to be out somewhere in the world. And where that was going to be, where I would land, I had no idea. But when I came to university, I just kept following along because this is what my friends were doing. And I thought if I just stay close to that, I'm doing maybe something half right in my life. And I graduate. And a couple weeks before, my best friend says, "Hey, my cousin lives in Vancouver. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure." We went for 4 or 5 days. And in that time, we were right downtown Vancouver. This is 1998. And I was like, "Oh, this would be a pretty cool place to live." My best friend felt the same way. She just graduated too. So we actually looked for a place while we were there. And then I flew home and told my parents. I was moving out to Vancouver. And 2 weeks after I graduated, I packed everything I had and I moved across the country. And so the adventure begins. I'm working at like the Gap and the Rogers video store and this bagel store. And that's cool at first. And that's the honeymoon phase. And then it's, hey, what do I want to do? My whole dream as a child was to become an actress. So I enrolled in acting school and things are going amazing. I have an agent. I'm going out for parts. I'm getting parts where I'm paid. I'm getting parts where I'm not paid, but I didn't care because I was just doing what I was like, oh, this is it. I'm going to do acting. But on the side, I'm now waitressing and bartending consistently. And that was cool for a while until it didn't feel cool anymore to me. I had the realization that I may always have to do something on the side to acting, which is the reality of most people in acting. You're a working actor, which is still great if that is your passion. But I wasn't in love with it anymore. And I was like dumbfounded. I was like, what am I going to do? This was it. And at the same time as that's happening, I'm also going into my first deep depression. I'm 25, living downtown Vancouver. Life is supposed to be great. And I'm very empty inside. In fact, I don't feel anything. I remember I didn't even have taste anymore. I was just mentally, emotionally struggling. Now, I still could get up and go to my job. I still could actually go to my auditions and I was even getting parts, but getting out the door was so hard. The amount of tears I had, my sister who lives in Ontario would call me and be like, okay, you're going to get up now, go in the shower. When you get out of the shower, call me. My roommate was amazing, but she's also 25 and we're not equipped for this. I was definitely not equipped. This was a big turning point because I wasn't trying to hide from what was going on. Outwardly, everything looked fine, but I felt dead inside. And I'm like, "Okay, this is not okay." So I started seeking guidance. I started seeking help with counselors. I realized really was trying to avoid vulnerability and the hard parts of being an adult or just being human. Even hard stuff happens when we're not adults, right? So it really came down to big aha moments. Turning points for me was I realized all of my life, I always thought I was number two to everything. Like I really leaned in on external validation. I really had followed my best friend to Vancouver, who I adored. But then I started to realize, oh, she does have her own life. Like she now was having her own things to work through. I didn't really know who I was. I really didn't know who I wanted. I know if I did all the things that my parents told me to do, which weren't wrong,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what I wanted. I was afraid to have my own opinion or stand up for myself that way. And I also, like I said, I detested vulnerability. I wanted to make everything as like Niceville. I really had this romanticized version in my head of how life is supposed to be. And it actually didn't match reality.
Mhm.
It didn't have a lot of depth. The idea of being in a relationship or falling in love, I really had no idea because I really was not even loving myself.
Mm.
So the big catalyst became when I started to realize, and I fought it so hard, that vulnerability is what would set me free. Vulnerability is where you're going to experience the most love, the most joy, the most excitement in your life, the most adventure. And with that is going to come discomfort and pain and sadness and grief. And I didn't know that I was strong enough to manage it mentally and emotionally. I was like, how do people get up and continue to do this? It wasn't like I hadn't had hard things happen. Maybe I just didn't know how to process it in a way that wasn't a weight and a fear that I was carrying around and trying to run from. Like I was just always trying to run from it. What's the next thing to make me feel good? What's the next dopamine hit? I had to be my own dopamine hit. It was realizing vulnerability would set me free and is actually the most beautiful gift. And also that I am number one. Brittany, you're number one. Whoever is listening to this right now, you are number one. There is no number two. I don't even know where I got that from, but I held on to it like my truth. I wholeheartedly lived by it. And it was a big contributor to me ending up in a depression. That became a turning point where I started to feel more free. That did not happen overnight. Like when I look back on it now, it was probably like a year and a half. It took me from the time I was like the deepest, darkest moments to really starting to feel lighter and feeling that I could trust in myself. This moved me into realizing I no longer am in love with acting. I am not wanting to waitress and bartend my whole life. I started looking at what was like highly employable, would pay really well. If for some reason I ended up a single parent, which wasn't my desire, but life happens. I wasn't living in poverty. I could travel with it. So I started having some clarity because now I'd done a lot of things I did not want to do. I started to narrow down like dental hygiene. So I just started to realize, okay, this is what I want. Like my desire to want more was so much bigger than my fears. I decided to commit to that. I did not realize how hard it was to get in the program. Only 25 people get in the program. I started looking at prerequisites. I started to become the person I didn't know I was capable of becoming because I started making the choices that started with the mindset. I committed to doing the work. I just showed up and was relentless. And I committed so much that there was a point my parents were like, you should just go have some fun. And I'm like, look, I had a lot of fun. I finally got a vision. I don't have plan B anymore. I got a solid plan A and I knew how tough it was going to be. And I remember I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to get these prerequisites done, start the program this year, and then I'll be done this year. And then I'll work. And I had it mapped out. Lo and behold, as I'm trying to do all the prerequisites, the exact two courses I need to apply for that year are both offered at the same time. I
Mhm.
can't take both. I can
Yeah.
only take one. That set me back a whole year for applying. So thanks for like all smooth. Like I really had to persevere. And
Mhm.
those are the biggest things I showed myself. I eventually got in the program. It took a little longer because of just things that were beyond my control, but I stayed the course. I was so excited. I don't know if anybody else was as excited to start the program as I was. I got to be one of the 25. But you know what? I remember starting the program and as excited as I was, I'm like, I know this won't be my be all end all because I just proved to myself through perseverance, through all the bumps that could have easily knocked me off. And I only thought twice in those 3 years it took from when I said, I want to do this to the day I started the program. There may be a chance I don't get in, but I have a solid plan A and I'm going to stick to it. And I bet on me. And the biggest, what I think is really cool is really the biggest commitment in a relationship I truly first ever made in my life, like really made full heartedly with love was to myself. And so hygiene, it took me long. I have a 16-year career in dental hygiene, which I absolutely love. But being multi passionate doesn't mean I have to not love something to be in love with something else. I'll be honest, I really love finding different ways of making money. Like it's fun. Like it's flash. There's so many cool things. It's just like money's just such a beautiful, energetic tool to do so many fun things in this world. And dental hygiene was another step. It was an income step. It was the level of professionalism. I felt like I was really smart. Like, oh, I could be really good at something that actually really helps people. But I had friends then that knew nothing about network marketing, and I had my son. My daughter wasn't born yet. And I just saw that there were just like other ways to make money. And I didn't know anything about network marketing. And I started playing around with it, still working full time. And then I ended up in network marketing for 7 years. And in that 7 years, I ended up growing so many other skills. And again, learning I could do something else, that maybe I'm actually good at something else. It's not just dental hygiene. And I started gaining leadership skills that I didn't know I was gaining at first. It just became a vehicle for learning other ways to connect with people, other skills I was learning. And it became, when you are a natural at things, you need feedback from other people to be like, just so you know, we've already talked about this in this leadership here. Like, you really are leader. Would you like to lead XYZ for us? And I'd be like, okay. And I would go do it. It was the fact that I could do that and didn't expect that of myself. And then when COVID hit, I'm still working hygiene. I've now worked 4 years only in person, no online presence. I don't do anything online. Nobody in my company knows how to do social media. And so I started just looking for other mentorship because I was like, I need to lead me, because I knew other people were also looking to me. And then I started just meeting other people in the online world. And I started developing other relationships, and that became other collaborations. And then it was like, I'd be on a coaching call with someone for social media stuff. And so I just kept hearing from people. They're like, I really think you are supposed to be doing this. And they would be talking about leading and personal development. But when it came down to somebody being like, oh, you're supposed to actually be coaching, I was like, what the heck would I coach on? Like, where do I begin? I'm like, this hot mess right here, I got to get this thing figured out. Like, so it just started over years. People started mentioning it. And then I started getting in deeper into other arenas of energetics, of the laws of the universe, and really practicing things just in my own life and my husband as well. And finding a way to live a life that just felt like more peace, more joy, more fun, and that we can make our own rules. There's times I had to remind myself, like, oh, yeah, I'm the parent. I don't have to wait for everybody else to tell me what to do. I can really live my life however I want, because subconsciously, again, my mom passed, I could still hear her voice in the back of my head. And then there were years where I was still just trying to live up in a way to honor her and do what I thought she thought would be okay, rather than doing what I thought was okay, and just realized she'll be proud of me no matter what. So I started then looking more deeply and actually just feeling really drawn to like Amanda Francis and Melanie and Lair. I was coaching with Sarah Longoria and doing EFT tapping. There's just a whole other world that wasn't foreign to me, because I grew up where I was in a more spiritual house, a religious house, even though I went to Catholic schools, but my parents weren't regimented about anything in particular. In fact, they're very much believe in the power of prayer, but you could be calling it talking to the universe. And that's what we did too. And really believing in the power of what we put out to the world. I felt like this was coming around full circle. I felt like I was understanding better the things I saw and heard as a kid. Like, even I remember when shortly after my mom passed, and on her nightstand, she had a stack of books. There were the books that she had been reading during all her different cancers. And it was like it was there to guide us. And they're great books. And I would go home to visit, and I would take one and I'd bring it back to BC. And I would read it enough till I felt like I got what I needed. And I felt okay to let it go. And I'd take it back home to my dad whenever I go home and visit. And I'd say, I'm good. Like, I'm okay to let this one go. It was like the secret. It was, you are a badass. I'm trying to remember now the names of the books. Was it called Broken Open? I'm trying to remember. There was just like incredible books. And I felt like in a way she was like ahead of her time. And even with all the disagreements and everything, it's like she left enough of a library to be like, just, I don't know, she knew, or just somehow powers that be knew this was going to be needed. This was going to be part of what is going to carry on, among many other things. And I started learning about human design. And it wasn't until I was in all these different containers about energetics and really the power of manifestation and really understanding about tapping into your own inner power. And at this point, I had already had gone through like the childbirth, postpartum. I had other things with my health in the years where I had PTSD because I had my own cancers to deal with, like in my 30s. And just like wild, crazy things that came up, or just sometimes were a little too much that one person could bear. But I still got through and persevered, just like persevering, getting out of my first depression and getting through the program. Like I started to show even more how strong I really am. So I started going in deeper into understanding the workings of our energy, the essence of our being, and really how that is like the foundational layer behind the strategies and your decisions, and it's who you are being, not so much what you're doing. And the more that you're focused on authentically your beingness in the world and your value for your beingness, everything else you do is just such an extension of that that lights up and can only be the best expression of you when you allow it to be. And so I started being in these communities and I kept hearing people talk about since I'm a 5'1" emotional inner authority. And I would be like, what the heck's going on? What are they talking about? And then it started to tune in. Oh, they're talking about human design. And I swear it was like everywhere I turned, all these other places women already knew. I started to really listen and see, oh, she's a human design coach. Oh, I'll ask her more about it. I'm like, I'll have a reading done. And then it would be like, it was around me, but then it would be like 6 months later, there would be like this program where now I was in a position where I realized, like, you know what? I love my career in dental hygiene, but I really do want to go down to less days because I have more fun things going on in my life. Do want to be able to show up a little more with my kids, like for their school stuff. And I also want to be able to show up to take care better of me and my health because I want to be around a really stinking long time for kiddos and grandkids. And I heard about a program with this incredible coach called Courtney Koenig. It's called the Velocity Method. And this is a program where you became far more in tune and really understood more about your human design and how you add that in as a beautiful element to your business. This could even be like corporations. If I knew everybody I interacted with, what their human design is, I would have a far better idea of what works, what doesn't work for them, and why this is their process. Instead of like, why can't they just do things this way? Why can't you just have all the energy for this and blah, blah, blah? That's not everyone's jam. It really isn't. There's nothing wrong with them. We really do have our own process, and it just became a way to articulate that. So I decided to go into the program for personal development reasons. I was loving the program. I just was understanding so much better myself, which is really where you start. And I actually started to integrate and embody my human design. And I was understanding really what this means, like how you really apply human design to your life as a mom, as a parent, as a sister, as a daughter, as a neighbor, as this incredible soul that's meant to create the most dynamic life and realizing like we truly are our own creators. Like we get to do whatever the heck we want. We just have so much conditioning. And a lot of this stuff started coming up was the conditioning that's behind my decisions, my train of thought, things that I believe to be true that I started to question, are they actually really true? I could actually choose something else that actually even feels better. It became about my relationship with money. It became about what it meant to be in a loving marriage. Like it just really opened up my whole world. And I started leaning into what is called my strategy, which is as I'm a manifesting generator. I'm a 2-4 profile manifesting generator. I have a sacral inner authority, which means I'm naturally born with this really crazy amount of energy and doing things and making decisions that really light me up is really essential because I am a bounce arounder. I go around, but it's like having all these different balls actually keeps my bounce going, keeps my energy going. But deciding really where to put my energy is best used where I feel the most lit up. And that's where the direction is to be. And this became less about my thinking mind and now what I call my feeling mind, listening to my body. And we grew up in a world where we are told emotions should be afraid of. Again, that takes me back to the whole I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to cry. I don't want to be in grief because I don't think I can handle any of that. I'm here to tell you can because I'm still here. and, and I just started to realize more about how much conditioning was a part of my life and not for good or for bad, just interesting. I decided to make it like an observation, an acknowledgement. And not all conditioning is bad. I think we're taught things to help keep us quote unquote safe. And that was the other thing. Playing it safe kept me really sad for periods of time in my life. It didn't bring me joy. And so I just started to lean in to my strategy, which was all about this need to always respond to things, of actually taking a pause and listening to my gut, because I have this ability to out logic my nudges, my intuition, whatever you want to call it, your gut. And I know how to do that very well. But the thing is, then I say yes to everything right away because I want to be a part of everything. It sounds so, let's do it. And then 2 days later, I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I do that? I know I can do it because I got the energy to do it. I know I can push through, but why am I actually doing this? And that's what kicked in for me. And that message kept coming up for me as I was in this transition with, okay, love my career, but I don't want to be my be all end all. I'd like to scale back to a couple of days here. And I was open to eventually scaling out of it when the time came as well. But I'm not loving network marketing. It's not my passion at all. And what do I do? Because if I'm not in it, like, who am I, or how will I still be friends with other people and whatever? And I put a bit of value into that in terms of my identity. And so I went on a road trip, and I remember in the road trip just thinking I was driving across all of British Columbia. We're driving to Banff and in the car, and I was halfway through this Velocity human design program. And I remember feeling like I am not lit up by this anymore. What if I just made the decision to no longer be a part of that? Because I'm already there. I'm just not committing to it. And I just made the decision just so quietly, sitting on the passenger seat, that I was ready to move on. And I think part of it too was that I was so used to saying yes to a lot of things and putting a lot of things on my plate that if I don't have a full plate, it's like that I have to jam it with something else. And I was like, no, I don't. Like, I don't need 10 things. Maybe I could just do 3 things and it's living that fulfilling. So it became, I just started leaning into my human design. And when I started to say no, my best no, and I got a lot of tests from the universe, I'll tell you that. But I'll tell you, when I truly owned my truth, I felt so free and it opened up all the space for all the things that were meant to come. Within 6 weeks, I like accidentally started doing human design readings. It wasn't my plan. People started asking me about that because I made a post one day. I was like, oh, I'm so excited finishing my program. Oh, what is that? I was like, oh, yeah, human design is this thing. And they keep asking questions. And I was like, are you interested in that? They're like, so how much? And I just said a number. And I was like, this was the beginning. I was like, oh my God, I think I just started maybe a coaching. I think I just started a business for myself. And everything changed. And I just kept leaning into my human design. And I felt very raw and bare
Yeah.
and seen. And it was like, but I just kept moving forward. I ended up breaking all the rules. I did nothing that was traditional to begin with. I didn't wait to have all strategies in place. And right away, like, people were more than willing to be like, oh, sure. Yep. How much? Okay. I'll just sent you the money. And then I was like, I feel this urge for one on one. I can feel it. I can feel other people are needing it. And then I just created it. And then I'm like, I can fill in all the rest stuff and email sequencing and all that stuff after. So that has led me to here. So it has taken a lot of inner work. It has taken a lot of tears at times, taken a lot of leaps of faith. Mostly it's taken self-love and self-trust and perseverance, even when shit hits the fan.
It takes me back to the beginning when you were learning about trusting yourself and realizing how resilient you were.
Mhm.
And I do think that it's really interesting because I mean, you're like, I was 26 and like you're supposed to have everything figured out, it's
Right.
like, but yet it makes sense that you would grow up in a home where you're given rules and guidelines, and this is how we do things, and not being equipped to handle like the real stuff that comes up from just being a human being when you're
Yes.
trying to just follow the rules and do what everyone else is telling you to do. And so it makes sense that at that age, you wouldn't be equipped to figure out what's going on or like to be vulnerable or to allow yourself those human experiences because you don't know what they are, right? You don't realize that, oh, this is what it means to
Yes.
be a human being
Yep.
and to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And I think it's so vital to get that support. Like the fact that you sought out counselors, that you were open with trusted people about how you were feeling.
Yeah.
Like that's going to make all the difference to shifting that mindset and feeling safe enough to do that.
Yes. Yeah, definitely having for some people, it might be one person. For me, it was a few people, like professionally and within my family. This is where you are is it's okay. Even though you don't feel okay, but like
Yeah.
you're not being judged. You need somebody in your
Mhm.
corner where you don't feel judged.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Someone that's going to show that empathy and compassion so that you can then, oh, maybe I could have a bit more for myself.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just always like, how do people like manage breakups? I remember I was just like, how are you not devastated? I remember even dating my husband early on. And I remember I was like really liking him. And I was like, oh crap. I'm like,
Yeah.
because with that means there could be a lot of disappointment, but there's
Yeah.
going to be relationships. Like I say that now. Oh, but I remember at the time telling my counselor about it, and she was just like, yes, this is part of being in relationships and being vulnerable. Like, this fucking sucks. I'm like, I want no part of it. I want to stop the train now. And she's
Yeah.
like, this is actually why you're here. You came in telling me this, but this is actually why you're here. So having someone in your corner is just essential.
And I love the phrase you use, the vulnerability sets you free. And the reason is because when you're being vulnerable, you're being relatable, and then
Yeah.
people are able to connect with you
Yes.
on a totally different level. And with vulnerability comes risk, but
Yes.
it's like weighing risk versus reward. And am I willing to love somebody so much that I risk losing them? Because
Yes.
that's a reality 100% of the time. And
Yes.
you can lose people in so many different ways because that is part of life. And so, do I choose to live my life to the fullest? And that includes the heartbreak.
Yes.
Or do I choose to try and hide from it or prevent it? And then I'm just like feeling unhappy, feeling
Yeah.
empty, feeling like I don't have something in my life that makes me want to get up in the morning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I now just call it like my wellness toolkit. Who are like the peeps that I go to? What are all the different practices? And too, you've done so much personal growth yourself and have been doing personal development for many years. So it becomes like, okay, what's in my toolkit that I need to pull out that I haven't pulled out? Because we can't pull them all out a day every single. We would never get to work because I'm like, I got to journal this one. I got my 45-minute breath work. You pick as you do. I'm like, now I got to do my tapping. I don't have time to make. Yeah, it's yeah, it's definitely interesting world, I tell you. If anything, you really can defy the odds that you put on yourself, the glass ceiling that you put on yourself. Half the time we don't even know we're doing it.
No. Yeah, exactly.
And I feel some of that too, and I say this now from where I am right now in my life, is also seeing it from the perspective of being female. And growing up female in the world is a different experience than male. There's just different conditioning. And yeah, I feel like we have the ability to really create, design, take the risks. And that's actually part of your human design too, which is right in with your profile, your trial and error process there of your line 3. When you talked about that, remember you're like, yeah, I don't resonate with that. I'm not really adventurous. And I'm like, what? But I'm like, can I just map out what you've done in your life? Like adventurous has the ability to look in so many different ways. But I'm just like, look what you're doing right now, Brittany. Talk about trial and error,
Yeah, I know.
right?
Yeah.
It's
And
incredible.
it makes me think of talking to my therapist this week. She said, I am so proud that you put yourself out there to take feedback from other people
That's you. That's a vulnerable thing to do. Yeah.
when you know that it's going to be a process for you to work through and
Yes.
decide, do I keep it
Yes.
or do I let it go? Because
Yes.
as a projector, I take on other people's
Yep.
things and
Well,
I have to reconcile it within myself to and it's always not fun because now I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do I believe? What is true for me? Does this help me? Does this serve me or does this not serve?
Yes,
So it's definitely something that can be a challenge for me.
totally understand that. Absolutely. And you got to also think when people are doing feedback, it's a moment in their time, but it feels like a lifetime to us sometimes. Like we take far more moments of absorbing the information, particularly if it's something where you're like, oh, but they're not happy with that. Or maybe it didn't resonate with them, or they, whatever the comment may be, that you don't interpret as being as friendly or pleasant or positive or anything like that. So I think also part of those things is understanding then again is like looking at it as the gift. Like we've talked about positive intelligence earlier this year and receiving it because the reason why you're asking for feedback is so that you can become even more exceptional because you really, but there's also you create your boundary on that
Yeah.
and knowing that thank you and like your therapist said, how do you put that into perspective for yourself in creating that? And I think this is just, again, it's a trial and error. And it's just part of that journey in life as well. Like we all want feedback, but only if it's like nice feedback.
Yeah.
You're like, what's attached to this? Yeah.
And what's attached to it in the respect of what meaning am I attaching to it? Is this going to bring me
Yes.
down or
Yes.
am I going to let it build me up?
Yeah.
We get to
What are you allowing it
decide.
to say about you?
Yeah.
And remember, the person who's writing it is also saying something about that.
Yeah.
On their it's the same thing if I wrote a comment about something, that's me writing the comment and that's about me ultimately,
Yeah.
and sharing whatever feedback is being asked of me. Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
How's us our resiliency there? I know. I know.
You mentioned a few times about trial and error or being curious or just it's fun to like do something new. And I think that's just such mindset to have because it's okay. This can either be like do or die, changing my career or trying this network marketing thing or walking away from my job or
Yep.
whatever. Or it could be like so exciting. Oh, let's see what happens. Or like
Yep.
betting on yourself. Whatever happens, I'm going to be fine.
Well said. Betting on yourself. If you spent more time betting on yourself, truly, I bet you things are going to turn out much better than you expect. I do believe things turn out the way they're supposed to. I don't believe in coincidences at all. When you say, actually, just totally a thought came up when you mentioned about network marketing. Talk about an industry that has so much negativity associated to it. I did that for so long. Isn't that kind of ironic for the girl who's trying to run away from anything where anybody would want to say anything negative? Pleasantville, everyone's saying nice things, but yet there are times you really have to put on your blinders. And the times that I did were the times that I flourished in the industry because I had to, because they were really the opinions of other people and they're valid, they're theirs. But how you just said, you have to make that decision what you're going to allow to impact you. Those were the moments I felt really proud, like, especially when this is more like the drama things that can happen in the industry. And when I first was coming across that, and I didn't know that this was drama stuff, like where people are like, I thought you were going to join me on my team on this side, or why did you sign up someone there? And I'm like, I didn't know that anyone thought anything of this. And it was like my introduction to this world of, oh, there's this game. Okay. I'm like, this is why the industry has that reputation. Stop it. But yeah, I just staying the course, even when I knew other people were not a fan of something, but I really wanted it. I really believed I was doing something impactful.
Yeah, it
And,
resonated with you. Yeah.
and then when it just didn't, it's because I really was drawn elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I really was looking for something that filled my soul. And that's in going into coaching. It just feels for me today in this moment, it just feels so soul filled, like soul food. I just continue to work on myself to bring my best self to, I really believe, and I believe you are too, that we are the exception because we choose to be the exception and to play by our own rules, that we don't have to play by everybody else's rules. And what if you bet on yourself and did it your way?
Right.
What if? What you could bring. And I think when you're in that mindset that already you're elevating your frequency, you're elevating your vibe, you're elevating your energy, where then universe is going to mirror match, universe, source, God, whatever you want to call, is going to mirror match with a like frequency.
Yeah.
Other, other things of the same frequency, you are magnetizing it. And this
Yeah.
is how we manifest.
Mhm.
So it's in your beingness, your vulnerability, your openness, your boundaries, betting on yourself.
Yeah.
It's those things that all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just met this other cool person, like the person you met who was your roommate at the conference you went to, your first podcast conference, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we have the same things in common. She likes pop culture. Oh my gosh, we went to,
Warner Brothers. Yeah.
oh my gosh, so fun, Warner Brothers. I
So
was
fun.
like, my 10-year-old wannabe actress self was like, oh yeah, for sure. I would have been on the lot. Absolutely.
The other thing I love that you said was about we create our own life, like of our
Be
own.
the creators, like
Yes.
wholeheartedly. I say that from the bottom of like
Yes.
my stomach all the way up. This is
Yes.
just off the top of my head. We are the creators of our lives.
Yes. And it goes along with that beingness and elevating your energy.
Yes.
It rings so true to me because obviously we were created as human beings. And then as human beings, we create. And so if we can create things out here, why can't we create things in here?
Yes.
And just thinking about it in that way is okay, I have all this power to create the life that I choose. And therefore, like you did when you were like, I'm going to go to dental hygiene school, I'm going to do this. And you totally made the decision and you embodied it because you started taking all the actions to get you there
Yep.
and you persevered through the hard and you did it. And then you got there and you're like, I'm probably not going to always be here because I know what I'm capable of. And so it's being able to reflect on those moments in your life where you're like, look when I did create the life
Yeah.
I wanted. Look when I did that. I could do that now too. And so if you're
Yeah.
feeling stuck in whatever career you're in now, it's no, let's like raise the energy. Let's
Yes.
look at who you're being and then let's like make some decisions about, okay, what is this life I want to create? Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is also why human design resonated with me because I really felt it gave me even more the permission to be more myself in the most beautiful, uncensored way. And a lot of the things, and this is very common, especially when I do readings, is when people hear what their gifts are and I'm elaborating a bit more and I'm giving guidance really in how to nurture those gifts in different ways that they can do that, is that often they are the things that people think are their downfalls, or they think it's the thing that annoys other people because maybe that's what they've been told. For example, in having the gift of your throat energy center, defined throat energy center, is maybe you grew up your whole life though, just being told like you're to be seen, not heard type thing. Like whether it was always verbally said, but it was implied. Wait Wait until it's your turn to speak. That's inappropriate. Don't say things like that. Like you're really diminished. Like, don't talk so much. You talk a lot. And that conditioning, just constantly hearing that message, you're not tapping into your strength of your voice. But the more that I could see, oh my gosh, it validated so much for me. But when I was like, what if I actually just trusted, which is betting on yourself, trusted in my strategy, that instead of saying yes right away to everything, I'm just going to take a pause, even though I think I definitely want to do something. And I'll just say, hey, you know what? I'll get back to you tomorrow. Or actually, I'll get back to you on the Friday. Because then it allows a chance for that decision to work through all your chakras until it gets to your root chakra, which is really the most grounding state where you make decisions that are typically most in alignment with you. But yeah, a lot of time people will think the things I'm telling them that are their gifts and their strengths, they're like, they never really thought about it. So I'm like, what if you actually picked one thing from your human design and leaned into it and actually started implementing it and practicing it in your life? That's integrating it. You will feel the difference. You'll feel what feels right for you and what doesn't feel right for you, and to trust in that. And this is where you create new boundaries. You're going to notice, you're going to start to feel whether it's more peace, more satisfaction, the feeling of more success or celebration, whatever it may be that your signature aligned feeling is, depending on your human design. Because there's 5 different types of human design. So I just feel like all of that, it's a tool. It's a tool, is what it is with human design for personal development and mindset. But it is a way that you absolutely can impact your parenting, support your children. There's so many great ways. Yeah.
This has been really fun. I really enjoyed hearing all about your career journey and like how it's evolved. And I just love that we can talk about beliefs and like things we've learned along the way that have really impacted how we're showing up today and making
Oh,
decisions now.
thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for
having me.
sharing
I
it.
love that. This is my first podcast.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I'm honored because it's like this serendipitous kind of thing, right?
it is. And you know what? Especially seeing you from the very beginning of just putting it out there. So I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for your successes. And I can't wait to see even more all the places it is taking you.
Thank you. If anybody would like to connect with you on human design, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Portals of Prosperity. They can also find me on Facebook for Rebecca Visser. And I do have a link in my bio as well. And of course, you can just always reach out to me. And if you want to chat about human design, you're curious about it, you know about it, and you're like, okay, I've heard about this. I want to do a reading. I also do very limited private one on one coaching as well. And integrating your human design along with where you are in your journey in your life. And a lot of the women I work with are actually women in business. And so we embody their design and integrate and work through this life utilizing their gifts and the essence of who they are. I am just a facilitator of that. I just gift people their gifts. It's like the best. It's the best. I love it. I love it. So yes, Instagram, Portals of Prosperity, and Rebecca Visser on Facebook. And absolutely, I would love to be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. Bye, Brittany.
Thank you so much for tuning in today, and a huge thank you to our guest for sharing such valuable insights. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps others discover the podcast, and it means the world to me as I continue to bring you content that supports your career change journey. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're feeling stuck in a career that doesn't fulfill you anymore, I'm here to help. My one-on-one career coaching program is designed specifically for women who are ready to break free from the grind and discover a career that truly excites them. In our sessions, we'll uncover what's holding you back, identify your true passions, and create a clear, actionable plan to transition you into a career that aligns with your deepest values. You can get in touch with me directly at shiftyourdayjob@gmail.com, or you can connect with me on social media at shiftyourdayjob. I'd love to hear from you and support you on this journey. Until next time, I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and together, let's shift your day job.